Okay, good evening, everyone, and thank you once again for joining the November edition of the Connect and Reflect series. This is our third call now, so we're rocking and rolling, hitting a lot of new topics. And for November, we really wanted to just ease into the fall spirit and into Thanksgiving and the holidays with a couple of topics that should really resonate for everyone and for folks with the DCC around nurturing speech and language skills because we're doing so much talking in the holidays. And then the next chat will be on mindfulness and managing big emotions. So lots of fun topics for November. And I am honored, thrilled, beyond excited to have Dr. Leann Schouten with us here today. Hi, Leann. How are you?
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. So nice
Our,
today.
oh, my pleasure, my pleasure. So, for folks who haven't attended this type of call before, our Connect and Reflect series is a brand new series launched by NODCC where we bring in experts on a number of different topics that are relevant to people with DCC and their loved ones. And so, like I mentioned, this month we'll be talking about nurturing speech and language skills. And the format for this webinar is first, Dr. Leann will give a chat, just explaining the topic, getting us all in the know, and giving some context for the discussion. And then we will open it up for Q&A at the end. And you can please add your chats, your comments, your thoughts throughout the presentation. I will be reading everything that everyone writes. And then at the end, I will read through the questions and offer them up to Dr. Leann Schouten. So you can use the Q&A to ask questions. That makes it really easy for me to see your question. But if you accidentally put it in the chat, that's okay. I'll find it there too and ask as many questions as I can, time permitting. So without further ado, I will give a very short presentation, introduction to Dr. Schouten, and then turn it over to you. So by way of a little background, Dr. Leann Schouten is a co-owner of Jump and Shout Therapy, a multidisciplinary private practice in Brea and Chino, California. She has been practicing for over 20 years and specializes in motor disorders. In her practice, she provides speech and language services to toddlers, preschoolers, school-age children, and adults. Dr. Schouten is also the founder and CEO of the Jump and Shout Foundation, a nonprofit organization providing medical equipment, supplies, and training to families and children in the surrounding community. Dr. Schouten has expanded her knowledge and growth in the field of communication disorders and sciences as an adjunct faculty member at Chapman University, and she also presents nationally. So we're so lucky to have her with us tonight. She also currently serves on the board of the National Organization for Disorders of the Corpus Callosum. So without further ado, I will turn it over to you, Dr. Schouten. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you. Thank you. It's so weird to like have somebody talk about you. That's all they have to, it's just weird. Um,
Like, really, I did all of
I
that?
know as you're
You did,
talking, I'm
you
like,
did.
ooh, and we can add Cal State Fullerton on there because they just asked me to teach. And it's been a crazy journey. But I honestly have to say, one of my favorite journeys has been with the NODCC. When I first presented years ago, from that, I ended up getting a couple clients who were local in Southern California. And it's just kind of grown, and it's been truly just so fascinating for myself. I've gone on to present for the California Speech and Hearing Association, kind of giving other people awareness about DCC. So it's truly been wonderful for me, and serving on the professional advisory committee has been great and definitely sharpened my knowledge and kind of made me question and wonder and have so many more questions about this, because as you guys are learning as parents, as therapists, we're definitely still learning about this, and it is definitely new for all of us as well. So I'm just going to quickly just kind of go over a little bit of here, and we're just kind of going to go forward. I think I should have done it the other way. Let's go. here. I don't know if everybody knows this little dude right here. This is Joshi, and Catherine Claxton also serves on the board. And he was really my first kind of push into the DCC world. He's nonverbal, he's HCC, and just wonderful. And he's kind of been my guinea pig. And I'm getting ready to write up an article about him and another HCC kiddo that I have. So really thrilled to be exposed to this population. So let's start off with preschool. You know, we are our DCC kids, typically at the age of 2 to 5, they're acting younger than their age. They avoid eye contact. They don't answer questions, or they don't answer their name when you call them. They refuse to be involved in games, and they're unresponsive to affection, or they show little affection, and they are withdrawn. Now, studies have found that we start to see some emotional difficulties around age 5. And then we have some kids who, with complete ACC, appear to demonstrate more withdrawn behaviors even before age 5. And I think that's one thing that is so just interesting, but also so difficult, I'm sure, for you as parents, but also for us as therapists, is the differences between ACC, HCC. It's just so different for us trying to determine what, you know, this child has. And we're always into, you treat the child in front of you. You don't treat the diagnosis. So what is the child presenting with? The diagnosis kind of gives us a little bit of background, but I'm going to treat who is in front of me and how they present. Children with complete ACC fall in the borderline clinical range with behaviors similar to pervasive developmental disorder. So we get this little crossover where they're starting to look like autism, but we know that they're not. But there's other things going on. There's a medical diagnosis behind this. That's, we want to make sure that we push that to the forefront. I know a couple kids who have been diagnosed with autism, and it's definitely something where families had to fight, and, you know, and some of them haven't fought. In California, if you have that diagnosis of autism, you're going to get ABA, you're going to get this, you're going to get that, and nobody's going to question anything. So they've kind of run with that diagnosis a little bit to get the services that they feel that they need. So let's jump over to elementary school age. Here, 6 to 11 years, they start to appear a little, you know, they get a little overly dependent. They're definitely lonely. They don't get along with others. They're jealous of others. They start to feel others are out to get them. They're accident prone or clumsy. Sometimes they feel like they're being, they're not liked, or they're bullied by others because they're not understanding that social component. They prefer to be with younger kids. That pressure is off of them to be with somebody their own age. And we typically see some speech and language delays at that time. Now, during our middle and high school years, we see lower performance across a variety of self scores. We also have lower performance on social cognitive measures, definitely speech and language delays. They're teased. They feel that they're not liked. They feel that they get bullied by others. And for our adults, definitely the whole facial perception piece, they're not understanding that facial perception. Lower emotional identification from the eyes. There's clinically significant impairment in facial recognition. There's significant variability in emphasizing. So getting out there, making those friends, and reading body language and understanding what that body language means. It's also something that is internalized from themselves. They're not understanding what their body language is saying to someone else. Social avoidance, we're going to get performance related anxiety. And all of this was from an amazing article by Paul in 2014. So you can definitely look this up and get a little bit more in-depth information. So social skills, what are we looking at here? So with ACC, You have that impairment in the use of multiple nonverbal behaviors, such as eye-to-eye gaze, facial expression, body posturing, gestures, social interaction, failure to develop peer relationships that are appropriate to their developmental age. Remember, they're liking somebody who's younger. They want to be that. They feel safer. They can, they feel that they're able to relate to somebody who's younger than them. There's a lack of spontaneous seeking to share that enjoyment or interest or achievement with other people. So think about yourself as a parent. You're starting to see this. You want to share this. You want to interact with them, but you're having trouble connecting. And it's not that they don't want to share. Maybe they don't understand the idea of sharing. Maybe they don't understand why they need to share. Maybe they are just not truly in tune with what sharing of that idea or that interaction means. And that lack of social and emotional reciprocity. So they're not, and it's not that they don't understand, but the education behind it. What does this mean to me? This is why I like to do it. So what does that do for you? What does that do for our relationship? So all of this in social language needs to be taught, excuse me. So conversations. Here, we're looking at well-developed social radar, have metacognition, that higher level language, understanding perspectives, a lack of perception of of those subtleties, less attuned to nonverbal behavior, body posturing, nonverbal gesturing, anxiety. I found that this is with ACC, this becomes really more apparent when you start becoming those higher teens and adults, that anxiety, that social anxiety, job anxiety. That's where we want our individuals to have a little bit more comfort, and they are not comfortable because of that social anxiety, that fear of having to connect to a boss, having to connect to coworkers. So the anxiety piece is a big one. And they function under the radar. They avoid those social situations. I'm fine. I'll stay home. And they're just wanting to kind of stay within themselves. So getting them out into social situations can be difficult. Or you're going to notice they're going to start to kind of go to those peers who are younger, where they know that they're going to feel a little bit more comfortable with. So early conversational social skills, strengths and challenges. So some of our strengths are average to above average verbal skills. Some of our kids, not all. Average to above average IQ. They may be very bright in a specific area of interest. They have language and they have solid academic skills. Now, our challenges come with executive functioning. That's that higher level skill. Figuring out what in the context that we're thinking about, putting it all together, interpreting, things along that line. And typically that higher level language skill develops in around 3rd grade. So we need to kind of be aware of where they're at, like 3rd grade. When that hits, you start getting chapter books, you're starting to remember what happens early on, character development, and that can be challenging. And that's the time to really start thinking about, okay, we have a chapter book, we have higher level language, we're starting to get implied meaning. I'm starting to figure out like something going on within the story. I think that some of our kids start to feel that they're bullied. They may isolate themselves, and you start to see difficulties and sensory problems, of course, and a high risk of OCD, depression, and anxiety. Of course, that anxiety piece, as we mentioned before, is a big deal. We want to definitely be aware of that anxiety. Considerations. Now we know some of individuals with DCC have well-developed language skills. They may have age-appropriate vocabulary. They may interpret language literally. So they're going to be, very concrete learners. That comes into not understanding body language, not being able to get implied meaning. So all that higher level language, that's where we're going to start to get difficulty. Less attuned to nonverbal communication. within themselves and with others. So they're not going to pick up on those subtleties of, ooh, what time is it? They're not going to pick up on that kind of stuff and be like, oh, she's looking at her watch. She needs to go on time, or she's a little hurried, or somebody's swaying back and forth because they have to go. They might not pick up on that nonverbal communication. They have difficulty with self-regulation, and they may not accurately interpret others' expression. I've also found that individuals may get into a situation and can only stay for a certain amount of time because it's so overwhelming for them to be able to like be at a party or to be in a social gathering and social setting, and they're trying so hard that they honestly start to fatigue because it's too much to keep the conversation going. It's too much to be a participant. So they tend to back off a little bit and they just need that time to pull away, or they leave early. Let's get into a little bit about interventions. Social skills. Social skills are really hard to teach, just because you can't just generate, let's practice this setting. Let's practice saying hi to people. Let's practice. It's too contrived. It's too manufactured. You want it to be natural. And this is where you as parents are really, a part of this. I can give somebody all the skills in the world, but it's getting them out there and having them to try it on their own. And that's where we start to really depend upon you as parents. Hey, when you're out and about, try this, see how it goes, let me know. So here's a little bit about why social skills programs might not work. It's contrived and decontextualized. It's just fake. And a lot of our individuals pick up on that and they're like, I can do it in this. But out in the real world, again, the anxiety, the pressure to do this, to get into that situation, to read the body language right away in a fast conversation is so different than being in one-on-one or in a small group with friends that they know and peers and people who they know are going to be a little bit more tolerant and take their time and help them out. So social skills are great, but we definitely need a better way to work on them. So how do we teach them? This is where you come into play. And we need you to, teach emotional competence. You need to talk about your feelings. Have them talk about their feelings, understand their feelings. We need you to, incorporate it into your daily routine. When you, as I put down here, when you talk about your own feelings, when you don't pay attention to me, it frustrates me. I don't know if you're thinking about me. I don't know if you're listening to me because you're looking over there and you're not giving me your attention. Your attention makes me feel that you're listening to me and I feel better about the conversation. You want to discuss what makes you feel bad and what, things make you feel good. Hey, oh my gosh, thank you so much for looking at me right now. Or, oh, thank you. Thank you so much for being in my conversation right now. I really feel like you heard me today. Let them know that you see those behaviors. I think dinner time, when you guys are all together, that's like a great time to do it. In the morning, if you're feeling rushed, let them know, I'm feeling rushed. How are you feeling this morning? I don't like feeling rushed. It makes me anxious. It makes me feel uneasy. Talk about your feelings. It's really important because it's happening naturally. And that's why social skills naturally are so important. So the home environment is like the best model. They're going to see what you're doing. You're going to narrate life. And that goes with everything. If your child is learning language and they have just a little bit of language, I always tell parents, I want you so tired of talking. At the end of the day, you're just sick of your own voice because you are narrating life. I'm going to get, hey, we have to get your shoes. Where are your shoes? Do you want the red shoes or do you want the white shoes? What are we doing? We're putting our shoes on. Oops, I need to tie your shoes. Let's tie your shoe. This is your right shoe. This is your left shoe. I'm tying it up. What do we need now? You need your jacket. Oh, and your backpack. Where's your backpack? It's on the chair. Show me. It's on the chair. Because you're just narrating and just exposing them to this really strong, rich environment of amazing language at home that, I'm with them maybe 1% of their week. You're with them so much more, and you have that ability to expose them to so much more language than I can. talk about what's going on with them. Let them know. Talk about that, talk about experiences with peers. You want to be sensitive to what they're feeling and what's going on with them, and kind of let them know that, oh, I hear you. I see what you're feeling here. And, make sure that they open up to you to let you know if they're concerned about something, if they're having, thoughts or feelings or struggles. You want to acknowledge those. Make sure that you really show that you're interested in not just their social life, but in their school life, in their friend life, in their dance life, in their, sports life. Take those opportunities to, to talk about things in everyday social settings and social interactions. You go to Starbucks, make sure that they're right there. Make sure you order, have them say thank you. That's a great social interaction. I have a client that I see right now where we're heading out into community, and I'm like, where do you want to meet today? And we head off to Starbucks, or we even go into like Home Goods, which is terrible to take a person into Home Goods because you're going to buy a bunch of stuff, but it's a lot of fun. But I'll like walk really far away from her down the aisle, and she's looking at me and she's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm over here. I can't hear you. And so I'm like doing things down at the other end of the aisle, and making her talk to me and making her get out there and having her, use that voice and kind of, oh, we're stuck. What do we need to do? This person's in our way. What should we do? And we need to say, excuse me. And I embarrass her a lot. It's kind of fun to not be her parent, but act like an embarrassing parent. So that's a lot of fun. Let me see. Oh, so again, nonverbal skills, helping them look at facial expressions, body language, watching all kinds of TV shows and talk about things that you see. Predict. Oh my gosh, she looks angry. I think this is going to happen. What do you think? Or, ooh, she's so happy. Or, someone is this. What do you think is going to happen? Tone of voice. Change your voice. Let them kind of hear that. We want to make sure that they are hearing and understanding what a rise in inflection. You're asking a question. If you're going to lower that voice, what does that feel like? And talk about, changing the voice and listening for those changes. Attention to task or topic. Try to, if your child is having trouble staying on point, pick a topic and say 3 sentences, 2 related to the topic, and then 1 random one, and have them find the one random one that doesn't go. So if you're going to talk about the family dog, you're going to talk about, you're going to get dog food, you're going to talk about going for a walk, and then you're going to talk about the bus. And see, wait, we're talking about the dog. Oh, I'm sorry. I switched topic. I didn't mean to do that. Oh yeah. That was my one topic or my one sentence. We're not talking about the bus. We're talking about the dog. That's right. So you want to make sure that you're staying on topic, keeping everything related, and then throw in that something random. It's called sabotage. Sabotage is the best. If you're making a sandwich and you take everything out to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and you don't get a knife, they have to ask for the knife. So they need to use that language. Language is all about need and opportunity. Provide the opportunity and make them need to use their language to get what they want. If you have toys out and about, put them in boxes that are really good heavy duty boxes that they can't just open, that they have to come to you and ask you to open for them. So I don't know if I'm going to get all into this because this is a lot of stuff, but I can always share that later. If you want to get into, we can get into some questions. I feel like I just like talked so fast, but the nature of a speech pathologist, how fast can I talk?
No worries at all. And that was so chock full of information too. So thank you so much. I can tell you the very first question that I got and through 3 or 4 times over is whether or not folks can have a copy of the presentation. I know we didn't talk about it beforehand, but people are like, this is so great. Can we get a
Oh, awesome.
copy? So, okay. So
I think you guys have it from 2 years ago, and I'm more than happy to send that to Barbara again. if she needs it.
Okay. So
Yeah.
I will send it out. or Barb or someone will send it out to all of the attendees for tonight so that you guys have it because it is so full of information and I can't wait to look over it.
There's a bunch of websites on there as well for you guys to take a look at, some resources and my contact information. If you just want to shoot me like, hey, we're thinking about this. What do you think? I'm happy to do that kind of stuff. And just because it really helps me out as well. And it helps me learn.
Awesome. So guys, the Q&A is open and I saw that some people were adding in their thoughts and comments. I'm not sure if the chat is open because I hadn't seen much in the chat. And it's usually like so much conversation going on in the chat during the presentation. But if you have questions, I'll start with a few. Chat is disabled. Okay, I don't know how that happened, but sorry.
I have
We'll
a
make
few
sure
things
we
in
figure
my
it out.
chat. There's a webinar chat, and then like I have something in here that says, do you see these strengths and challenges for folks with DCC or your loved
These
one?
are these are all me. So I
Okay.
usually like ask questions and then the chat is very lively, but for some reason the chat was disabled. So um, that's okay. So think about your questions, you guys, and just go ahead and put it in the Q&A because we know at least the Q&A works. And then I've got a couple questions that I can start with too. So
Yeah.
the first question is, you laid out really nicely the trajectory of language development, right? And I know for our DCC kiddos, expressive receptive language delays can be quite common. So how can you know when that common expressive or receptive delay is turning into more of a like full-blown developmental language disorder, like something that's going to stick with them for life?
Um, I think the best way to do this is to think about, we're starting off little, and when you're here, your ability to learn language is high and your delay might be really low. And then all of a sudden we kind of hit around 7. And at around 7, it starts to cross. And then we hit, that teenage years. And then now they've crossed where our ability to learn language is going down and the gap has gotten so much bigger that it's so hard to catch up. So at the very beginning, when we're little, that's the time to hit it hard to see, because what happens is it's like the best way to do it right there. You're just going to see kind of around teenagers that the gap has gotten bigger, and you're going to watch it. You're going to look at your standard scores on all of your assessments. And if those standard scores are not changing, then you know that that gap is just getting bigger and bigger. The hardest thing to look at, it's like I have an assessment here. And this is a little one. And this is a test, and they are almost 4 years old. And when I look here, their standard score is 61. Now, if I'm not making growth and I'm not going to see the standard score jump to like 69, 70 something, and it's staying at that 61, or it's even going into the 50s, and I know I'm not making enough progress and the gap is getting bigger. And that's the problem. So you have to look for the gap, because as they're getting older and that gap is just getting bigger because there's more skills that they're not getting.
Got it. And you said the standard score is what test are you talking about?
Every test that you get. So when your therapist does a test, I would say 90% of them give you a standard score. And that standard score is, I'm a big mathematician person. I hated math growing up, and now I love it and I figured it out. But the standard score is that mathematical figure. Sometimes they'll put an age score on there. Like this one here, he's almost 4 years old. He's 311. Well, his receptive language is at 23 months. That gives you like an idea where you can kind of see. The only problem with age equivalence is that it's really not a mathematical figure. And if they get like 2 more points right, then maybe it's 27 months and you get like a totally different figure. So go by the standard score. I always tell everybody that. Go by the standard score.
Got it. Super helpful. So starting at around 7, that's when you'll see that change.
That's going to change, where that it's so much harder that ability to learn language starts to go down.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. And we have another question here from a parent who says, I have just had 3 young children between 1 and 2 years old with DCC diagnosis. early intervention, hospital SLP. These children are not yet using words. What are your top tips for this age group for speech development, and how does your articulation and dyspraxia play into this?
Oh, that's a big one. Depending upon how motor planning and what their motor planning looks like. I think like 4 or 5 years ago, I did a big one on apraxia and what that looks like. Motor planning, until they start to develop that language, it's really hard to determine the severity of the motor plan, but you can start to play around with it. I would really start looking into AAC, that augmentative and alternative communication. You should have boards out, you should have sentence strips, labeling everything, giving them that access to some sort of communication. I have a little one right now who's got a very rare genetic disorder, receptively bright. I mean, she's pointing to this, she's pointing that, no expressive. And I'm like, why is she like not using AAC? Where's her device? She could do this. I know she's got some fine motor difficulties, but there are ways to get around that as well. I mean, there's guards that you can put on your device to where it kind of helps point them into the right area. You can make the field bigger. You're not going to do a field of 24. Maybe I'll just do a field of 6 and help you out that way. I would really start pushing AAC, and people think, oh, well, I want them to talk. And if I give them AAC, they're not going to talk. And that is absolutely not true. Studies show that when you give AAC, because you're pairing it, you're saying, okay, ready? I want crackers. And you're mapping it out and you're saying it, and then it pushes it and it's like, I want crackers. And then even if they do it, you're like, oh, do you want crackers? Thank you. I want crackers. A lot of kids develop language because they're seeing it. It's being said multiple times. So they develop language just as well by using the device, if not better than when they don't have anything, because it's being said to them. I hope that it's okay.
No, it is. And she chimed back in there. She said, yes, this is so great to hear. This is my approach. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
Glad that I'm on the right path with my clients. So yes, that was very helpful.
Yeah, that AAC is huge. And it's funny because little Joshy, when he came to me and mom was like, I just want to try. She's like, they said he'd never do it. She's like, I just want to try. And I'm like, absolutely. I'm like, I'm only going to give you 6 months because I don't want to waste your time and I don't want to, frustrate him. And within the first couple months, we got sounds, and then we got a few more sounds.
Wow.
And, and I'm not going to say he speaks perfectly right now. And I think he speaks for me definitely better than he speaks for anybody, because I kind of, hey, say it. But he knows now that his voice has power. There's a difference between being verbal and being vocal. He's vocal now. He understands that he can say ma and get her attention.
Yeah.
And he can do this and that's important, because a lot of kids who are non-speaking don't realize that they have verbal ability to that
make
voice
things
power.
happen.
Yeah.
And I really loved when you were talking about sabotage. That just sounds like a fun way for everyone to really get the kiddos to start using their language skills. And I wonder, along the lines of sabotage, are there any other interventions that you would say are super helpful, or if you're looking at the totality of interventions, what are the key elements of an effective speech and language intervention?
Well, I think if anything, what you want to do is, if your child has goals, and they should be working at, they want to work to 80% accuracy, or they want to work in 4 out of 5 trials. Whatever you're doing at home should be fairly accurate. It should be so motivating and so rewarding that they feel successful at it. You're not the therapist. Your job is not to frustrate them. Your job is to, get them engaged and to, hey, let's do some sentences. If you're going to say this, and I had a kid tonight, she was like pointing at stuff. And I'm like, I don't know what that is. I don't know what you're pointing to. I don't know. And she looks at me and finally she goes, wash. I go, thank you. You want the wash? And we took it down. That's why I always say close the boxes or close the toys up. So they have to come to you and tell you, open. I can make bubbles last 20 minutes because what do I need to do? I need to open. Okay, I opened it. Now what do I need to do? I need to blow. Are you ready? Ready? 1, 2, ready, set, go. And then I'm going to close it up quickly because we're going to pop, 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 pop. And now it's closed again. Oh, what do I need to do? I mean, it's an activity that they love. They're 100% successful at it. But all the language that I get, it's really that repetitive language. It's, that complete exposure over and over and over again. If you're in the bath, I'm going to wash your arm. Where's your arm? Washing it. What's this? It's your arm. Is this your arm? No, that's not your arm.
Mm-hmm.
So it's continuing to just use the same model and use it and being successful. That's what's going to make them want to interact with you.
And so we have another question here. Do you have any suggestions to help our kiddos who struggle with understanding speech, like sarcasm, synonyms, antonyms, or reading between the lines?
That's that higher level language.
Mm-hmm.
You have to just throw it in everything that you're doing. You want to make sure that you're putting it out there. If you're going to go out and use it within that real world context, that's where social skills and this higher level, it gets hard when you try to just, okay, it's raining cats and dogs. What does that mean? Well, they can probably tell you, but until you use it, in context, that's when they're like, oh, I get it. Yeah, it's so hard to do sarcasm. And I think practicing a lot of that at home in everyday conversation, this is where you guys really, you're going to do it. And you come up together and you look at your husband or your significant other and you kind of say, or even your older kids or younger kids, and you kind of do sarcasm with them. Oh no. And like, oh, that was good sarcasm. That was funny.
Right.
So in context is huge because they start to pick up on it that way. And also finding out what areas where they are struggling and ask them if they want to practice that at home with you. Ask them if they want to, because some of our kids, they're just like, no, I don't want to do it. And you're like, okay, can we try this maybe for like 2 minutes? And then you're done. And then you can kind of get an idea of where they're struggling. Is it synonyms that they're struggling with, or is it antonyms? If you're driving a lot, the red stoplight is a great thing. Red stoplight, 3 synonyms. Let's go till it turns green. Go 1, 2, 3. And then you're going to do some synonyms. And then, oh no, it's green. Stop.
Yeah.
Something to do with the stoplight.
Oh, and I love that bite-sized approach that I think makes it fun, especially for the little ones as well. And related to that, we have another question. It says, what about young children whose attention span is super fast and switches quickly between topics, tools, toys, etc.? Any suggestions for interaction? So obviously, keeping your lessons or what you're trying to accomplish very bite-sized would help. But any other thoughts there?
Yeah, and definitely keeping things a little bit smaller is fantastic. But keeping it to, like, if you want them to be successful at it, it's, hey, we're going to do this for just a little bit, and trying not to push it, because as soon as you push it and they're like done, then that's it. That's also where keeping things closed up is a big thing. I'm not going to let you jump from toy to toy because everything's closed. Oh, you want to play with that now? We need to put this away. And as you're putting it away, I'm going to ask you 100 more questions.
Right.
We're going to put that away. So now I've taken the one task of putting something away, and I'm like, okay, say bye, so-and-so, bye. Who was this today? I forgot. Oh yeah, that's this person. I'm notorious for when kids want to like jump and do something else, they're throwing everything on the floor and just like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, I dropped it all. We got to clean it up. And they make it, it's my fault. I got to clean it up. I need your help. But not necessarily not giving in, but nope, we're going to clean this up first, and then you can have that. On your iPad, everybody knows about, like your triple, what is it? The triple button where you can put it on. Oh, and of course my iPad died. You can lock it to where they can't get out of the app that you're working on.
Oh no.
If you push
So
the
is
home
it
button,
the little, oh, okay.
I think it's the home button 3 times. I think on the newer iPads, it's the power button, and I can think you push it 3 times. And it's guided access. So that's what it's called, guided access. And you can probably look it up for your model, and it'll tell you exactly how to do it. And then you have to put a code in, and they can't get out of that until you put the code in. It does not
Oh,
work
wow.
for like if you're in like Safari or some internet thing, because they can just jump to another page. But
Okay.
in an actual app, and you just want, nope, this is the app, this is what we're doing right now, you can do your guided access and they can't get out of it until then.
Oh, that is awesome. My children thank you for that tip because maybe
Actually, they
they'll
won't
actually
thank
get
me.
to
They're like,
play with
get
an
out of
iPad
this.
now. No, I'm just like, no, no iPad for you. I don't want that roller coaster there. So I'm sure they'll be thanking you for that. And that's good to know for all of us as we're dealing with those short attention spans too.
Yeah.
I have a question. It's not quite, they didn't intend it as a question, but I think there's a really good question in here. I think they were just using it as the chat. But one person said that our teen struggles with word recall. He's very kind and loving. He does have trouble with confabulation. We find his verbal skills decline in new or novel situations, which is so typical for DCC
That's the
folks.
anxiety.
And we provide supports to help increase his processing. What kind of supports would you say for other people who have younger kids but haven't gotten to that teen stage yet, or who have teens or adults that experience that? How do they deal with those more novel situations and word recall there?
I honestly, a lot of it comes down to you as the parent just sitting back and going, okay, and let them work around it. And you can ask them, do you want me to help you with this? I know some of our kids, they're like, they get upset when you start to try to help because they're like, stop, I can do it. Stop it. And you're like, okay, I'm sorry. And just let them get it out. Let them talk around it. You can always do a word map where you're putting the ideas down and you're starting to write it down and have it go to that center bubble. That's the word we're looking for. And you're like, oh, is it this? And that way they can see their thoughts. That's always a good one. So they're starting to like write it all out. And then in the very middle, you're like, oh, I get it. You were talking about this. I see your thought process. That's always a good one. But I think the biggest thing is, I think it's like that anxiety of I can't find it. And if you slow down
Mhm.
and if you take that time to just sit and listen, it's almost like it's the processing and it's finding that it's okay. I'm here. I'm not going to force you to go faster. I'm not going to rush you. And if they feel that way at home, I think they get a little bit easier. Using the maps will help. And then just giving them that time to to formulate their thoughts. And then hopefully, and find out what they want. Do you want me to help you with this or do you not want me? I'm happy to sit back. And I've done it both ways. Not necessarily with individuals with DCC, but for stroke victims. I had one who would just
Mm.
go around and around and around. And I'm like, do you want me to help you? And he's like, no. And I'm like, okay. And then I had one who'd finally look at me and goes, what is it? And I would tell them.
Mhm.
And so you kind of have to know the person, but having that visual of the map definitely helps a lot of individuals.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah.
One very straightforward question. Um, the device that you mentioned, I think the assistance for communication. What was the name of that device?
The guided access or
No, early in the
the
conversation,
AAC
about,
device?
I think that's it. Yeah.
Depending upon what where your child's at, and they should be evaluated by a therapist or by an assistive technology specialist to find out what type of device works best for them. Whether it's going to be, because like a lot of places you go, and it happens a lot. I'm not going to bash the schools right now, but I'm going to bash the schools right now. Because
Do what you
whatever
got to
that,
do.
I know, well, whatever that therapist is working with, and like, oh, well, 7 of my kids use, touch chat. So I'm going to recommend touch chat for you. Well, it might not be the best program for your child. I know in California, any kid who goes to Kaiser is going to come back with a Tobii Dynavox. It might not be the best device for them, but they're all going to come back with Tobii Dynavox. And it's just, you have to make sure you get that really good assessment. An iPad is considered a luxury item, so insurance companies won't pay for it. Because that's why they'll say you can have a Tobii Dynavox because it is a brand of augmentative device. But if you're going to go out and get an AAC, and this is crucial, if you're going to get your child an AAC device, then that is their voice, and it is not a play iPad. It is not an iPad for doing other stuff on. You don't get to go to the internet. You get to use it as your voice only. If you're going to play games on an iPad, you have another iPad there. So you can use your voice and talk to me while you're playing the iPad because this is your
Mm,
voice. So kids have to understand that this is my voice and I'm not going to use it for other things because so many times those kids will jump over and all of a sudden they're on YouTube. And I'm like, nope, this is your
mm,
voice. You don't get to do that on
right.
this iPad. This, you have to use it for this. But I think it's really important that you get a device that is appropriate for your child and your child's level. It's hard to say because there's touch chat, there's Prolopo, there's Lamp, there's the Toby systems. There's just so many right now.
Got it.
Yeah.
So another question is, we have a 3-year-old who is on level with speech, both receptive and expressive. I often wonder if we should still be pursuing speech services to keep her moving forward and on track. Should you always be waiting for a deficit to pursue services? Which
Um,
is such a hard question for this community because you want to stay ahead of it, everything, right?
yeah. And I mean, and you're 3, so you can kind of look at, okay, well, we're on par, we're there, we're doing great. And if ethically, if I were to test somebody at 3 and you don't need service, I'm not going to recommend service. And I'll have people ask me, "Well, can you just work with her anyway? I'll just pay you privately." And I'm like, ethically, no, because there's no diagnosed speech receptive, what they're understanding, expressive, what they're using, delay. So ethically, I can't. It's like it's against my license.
There's no sort of preemptive
Yeah,
because for so many of our kiddos, we know it's coming when they get to second grade.
right.
So you're saying ethically, there's not a preemptive sort of way that you can look at it. It's got to be a current issue in order to address it. Wow.
Yeah, especially if you want your insurance to cover it. I mean, there are therapists who will like, yeah, I'll see you privately. Ethically, it is something that you're not supposed to do because you don't have a diagnosed deficit.
Hmm, very good to know. So I'll switch the topic a little bit from kiddos to adults just to cover that whole um, sort of range of ages and ask a little bit about self-advocacy. So how can teenagers, adults with DCC increase their self-confidence, reduce their anxiety to become a more confident and competent speaker and have to develop those language skills?
And I think that comes with being with parents and doing those activities, going to Starbucks and ordering. Oh my gosh. And like I had my kid, she totally ordered and I wasn't gonna say anything. And I was just like jumping for joy, thinking
Mm-hmm.
you did it for yourself. Um, and giving them that time and asking those questions kind of quietly and privately. Hey, are you okay? Do you need anything? And if they say something, oh my gosh, thank you so much for letting me know that you're tired or you're done. You don't want to do this anymore. Let's go. Or and acknowledging what they're feeling. Again, it's talking about feelings. It's giving them the confidence to say something. Um, personally and privately, my son had cancer at the age of 14. And he self-advocated and went to his dad and said, "Hey, I feel something." And it was down in his privates and it was happened to be his testicle was getting bigger and but he felt comfortable enough to go in and say something. And because
Yeah.
he did that, he found his cancer, he saved his life. Um,
Wow.
but it's
That's
giving
amazing.
that child that hey, you are able to do this. I'm not going to laugh at you. I'm going to acknowledge what you've said and I'm going to support you in that. Um, but I think it's those subtle little things. It's going out to dinner and having them order. Hey, good job. Hey, I like the way you ordered. Or it's sabotaging and having them speak up. Oh my gosh, you're so right. It's
Mm-hmm.
always the positives. And kind of if they point out something or if they're telling you how they're feeling, it's those types of things. And definitely watching out for them. But if you're starting to notice anxiety, you're starting to notice depression, it's then is this beyond me and do I need to get them different help?
We have another question here. How often do you see stuttering with DCC? My 4.5-year-old with apraxia and dys
Arthur, yeah.
dysarthria. Arthria. I'm like, I don't know that word.
Dysarthria.
Has
It's a motor planning.
dysarthria. Okay. Has developed a stutter in the past 9 months.
Wow. So you think about apraxia. Apraxia is a motor planning. Dysarthria is also motor planning. Apraxia is where the articulators are going to have difficulty finding where they're supposed to go. So if you take that, I know I'm gonna touch my nose. I'm touching my nose, but they're like, whoa, my nose, whoa, here, my nose, and the tongue is going everywhere, and they're trying to say this. Conversely, dysarthria is a slow, labored speech. The breath support might not be adequate enough. They might be like breathing wrong. So I think sometimes you start to get, as their language grows, you start to see some stuff that looks like stuttering, but it's still the apraxia. And it's kind of that I'm processing, and you're like, oof. And just again, it's that not take a breath, sorry. It's sit back. You as the parent, sit back and make sure that they know that they have the opportunity to take as much time as they need. But I would have to look at it. I probably have only seen a couple kiddos with true stuttering, where I've seen more motor involvement and not stuttering.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the more of
Okay.
the motor plan. It's like that access to the motor plan is so hard.
So we've got another question here, and a little encouragement too. So this parent says, behavior and communication are so interlinked. I encourage families to teach and label feelings from early on. Is there anything else to support behavior that you highly recommend in this population?
I think one of the biggest thing is not necessarily looking at the behavior and treating it after. It's what started the behavior. And I think we kind of forget that a lot. I know a lot of people will use ABA, and some people have their yes and no's about it. Yeah, I'm not gonna get into my theories on ABA. But I make sure that the ABA therapist knows if they want me to do something, because I have had that where they're like, oh, well, if this happens, you need, and I'm like, no, 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 no. I need to find out why that's happening. Why is he getting so upset? What is happening? And can we get back to, acknowledging, hey, you're upset. I see you're upset. It's okay. I see you through the toy. Don't throw the toy. But why are you so upset? And it's understanding what came first. It's not I'm going to react to the behavior. It's why are we
Mhm.
having the behavior? What is happening to give you this behavior? And sometimes it's me. Sometimes I'm pushing them so hard that all of a sudden they're getting so aggressive, and I'm like, "Oh, I need to back off. It's me." So I need to be aware as a therapist as well. But I think the biggest thing with behavior is, yeah, it's why. It's not the after, but it's why are we
That
having the behavior?
that seems to be a very nice language focused way to deal with behavior issues too. Like, let's talk about it. Why is this going on? So that's very good.
And
Um,
understanding the why is so hard. And you see it and you're like, what happened? And there's sometimes where a kid just blows up and you're like, oh my God, what just happened? And then you as the
mhm.
parent have to sit back, and even the therapist, because I've had it happen where all of a sudden I get the bite and I'm like, what happened? Whoa, what? And sometimes the task is too hard and we're
Yeah.
just frustrated, and that's how we're going to take it out. And so now I need to be aware not to push that far to where that child loses control.
And we have another behavior communication related kind of conversation. It says, our 4-year-old daughter doesn't understand personal space. Do you have any recommendations? How can you communicate to them? And
Typical
yeah. All
girl. No,
right.
congratulations. She's typical. No, personal space is hard. And I think it's getting into that, you doing it at home too, kind of like getting into her personal space and seeing if she understands what that is. Cause she might not even understand what the whole personal space is and what
Mhm.
that's doing. So I think if you're getting too close to her, you're kind of on top of her, and then you're like, does she even react to you there? Does she even see that, this isn't good behavior, or this isn't something that you want? Or are you using your language? Wow, this is making me, like when you're on top of me like this, she's like, I love it, but right now is not the time to do it. Or this is why
Yeah.
this is. So again, very language focused.
Yeah.
Sure. So yeah, just take it now because she's 4 and soon she'll be 21 and she's going to be like, don't touch me. Um, but when
So
you're out in
true,
public,
so
it's
true.
different. And that's what you can always talk about too. Hey, we're going to do that at home. We're not going to do
Yeah.
it out in public.
So to close us out and to bring us back to the season that we're in, we're going into a season where there are going to be lots and lots of conversations, lots of interactions with families. How can we help our children as they go into this season to connect more freely and comfortably with their family? What kind of setting do we need to um, set for our families that may not have experience dealing with someone with DCC or with language delays?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing is it's front load. Let them know what's going on at Thanksgiving, who's going to be there. Ask them who they like to be around at Thanksgiving. Then let that person know. Hey, you make them feel really comfortable. If you wouldn't mind spending a few extra moments with them. I think that will help. But also finding those topics that they like to talk about a little bit, but also giving them the tools to ask those questions or to speak to others about what they like to talk about. Um, Thanksgiving is it's my favorite holiday because we have so much to be thankful for. But,
Mhm.
making sure that individuals can, connect and you've given them the tools to connect to those people around them. And I was gonna say Amy put a great suggestion in there to give them the arm for their social distancing kind of a thing. Like, oh, this is personal space. This is my space. It's kind of like this is my dance space. That's your dance space. But teaching with that arm out and giving them that, I guess that worked for her family. So that's a great one. But and front loading is huge. Remember, everybody's coming over. There's gonna be 30 people here. If you start to get uncomfortable, if you start to get tired, if it's too much for you, just let me know. Maybe we'll pack a bag of quiet activities for you. And we're gonna give you that space to go be by yourself. And you let me know when you need that quiet time, and we're gonna acknowledge that and we're going to respect that. But then find out who they like to talk to. And then let that person know that they might, want to spend a little bit of
Yeah,
time with them.
that's a great idea too. Oh my goodness, so much great information in such a short amount of time. This hour flew by.
My gosh.
Flew by. So I just want to say thank you once again for taking the time out to share with us all of these great language strategies that we can use for our DCC families. And we're so grateful to have you on the board of NODCC, sharing this wealth and leading up the advisory committee. Is there any final words that you want to close us out with?
I just want to thank all of you, because you guys have taught me so much. And, I think you guys are amazing people and amazing families. And when you come to me with your questions, it's definitely something that motivates me to continue on and to continue doing this. So thank you.
Awesome. And we did have one question. Is this recording available to watch again? Yes, all of the recordings will be posted on YouTube. So there's a lot of great other content. If you just search NODCC on YouTube, you will find all of these. The last two have already been posted, and this one will probably be posted in a week or two. And then I'll let you guys know too, if you ever want to volunteer with NODCC, we are always looking for volunteers. We've got a wide variety of committees that do all sorts of things to support the NODCC community. If you are interested in getting connected with other NODCC families, if you look at the email that had this webinar in it, there's a number of calls that we'll have to reflect about what we talked about and to share our expertise as people with DCC or the loved ones of people with DCC. And so we've got calls for moms, calls for dads. This month we've got a plethora. We've got teens, we have new parents, grandparents, so many different ways to connect. If you would like to find out more about these webinars or how you can help out with calls in particular, you can reach out to me at community@nodcc.org. Thank you all so much for participating. Thank you for your time this evening, and we hope you all have a great holiday season. And we hope to see you back, I think next week actually, because of the holidays, for our next Connect and Reflect series. So y'all have a great evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye
Thank
bye.
you.